Good day, ma'ams, sirs, Sir Brian. Now that we already know the approaches, methods, and techniques in teaching mathematics, such as discovery approach, inquiry approach, process approach, cooperative learning, project-based learning, problem-solving techniques, the 5E learning cycle, activity approach, using patterns, the investigative approach, and blended learning, today we are going to discuss the other teaching strategies and methods. Other than the teaching methods and strategies discussed by the other group, there are still 8 other teaching strategies and supplementary methods. These are research-based strategy, interactive direct instruction, use of instructional aids, modules, instructional games, computer-aided instruction, collaborative learning strategy, and peer practice strategy. I was tasked to discuss with you today 2 topics, the research-based strategy and interactive direct instruction. Nowadays, due to readily available data and information, our society has become even more competitive and data-driven. We cannot deny that the public, and that includes the learner's parents, demands visible results from the educational system. Therefore, for students to receive the best possible education, instructional strategies, curriculum, and classroom management systems must have proven track records demonstrating sustained success. It is very blatant that one of the reasons why most parents enroll their kids to a certain school is because of the success stories of the school and its graduates. In relation to this, teachers, administrators, and staff members in every school understand the importance of academic achievement, and they acknowledge the importance of reliable research when making decisions regarding instruction and the implementation of the new ideas. That's why for today, we are going to discuss one of the other teaching strategies and methods, the research-based strategy. Before we proceed to our discussion on research-based strategy, let us first clear what research-based means. According to the U.S. Department of Education, or DOE, when we say research-based, it is a scientifically based research that applies rigorous, systematic, and objective procedures to evaluate whether a program is effective. The DOE has identified the 5 qualities necessary to qualify for the scientifically based research label. As what I mentioned earlier, the Department of Education has identified the 5 qualities necessary to qualify for the scientifically based research label. These 5 qualities are: 1. The research begins with a significant question addressing a core issue related to education. 2. The methods and measurements used in scientifically based research are reliable and valid. Results are consistent. In addition, the research measures what it claims to measure. 3. Scientifically based research conclusions are based on logic, meaning it is not based on opinion nor bias. 4th, sound scientific research is subject to peer review or evaluation by others who have expertise in the field. 5. Scientific research reports include adequate information that the results can be replicated to verify conclusions and extend the application. Understanding and definition of research-based instructional strategies led mid-continent research for education and learning to conduct scientific research on the issue. Educational researcher Robert Marzano, school consultant Deborah Picking, and educator and researcher Jane Pollack detailed the results of this research in their book Classroom Instruction That Works. The book identified the 9 instructional strategies most likely to improve students' achievement across all content areas and across all grade levels, as described by the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, or ASCD. A second edition of this book grouped the 9 strategies into 3 components of instruction. These are 1. Creating environment for learning. This includes setting objectives and providing feedback because it provides direction for learning, acknowledges student interests and investment, and encourages students to complete assignments. It also helps in reinforcing effort and providing recognition that demonstrates students that effort, even without accomplishment, is worthy of recognition. Lastly, cooperative learning results in positive effects on learning. Number 2 component is helping students develop understanding. This includes cues, questions, and advanced organizers, which help students focus on what is important and prepare for learning. Non-linguistic representations such as models, symbols, and physical movement may also be used to represent information in ways that increase brain activity. Summarizing and taking notes requires that students identify what is essential, recognize the structure in which information is presented, and learn to paraphrase. Homework and practice provide students the opportunity to extend learning and become more independent. The third component is helping students extend and apply knowledge. This is done through identifying similarities and differences, as in accomplishing Venn diagrams and charts, for example. Also, generate and test hypotheses, which will also reduce the students' dependence on their teachers. These instructional strategies, when consistently used in a timely manner, have been proven to make a difference in the academic achievements of students at all grade levels. To sum it all up, here are the 9 research-based teaching strategies. And we will start with review. Yes, when you spend 5 to 8 minutes at the beginning of a lesson reviewing relevant content from the previous lesson, you give students more opportunities to strengthen connections in their brains. It also helps students to activate their schema for the lesson. Next is to present new material in small steps. Students, well, all of us have limited working memory, and this is what we use to process information. Too much new information can overwhelm the working memory, and that's what we call, yes, information overload. Well, research shows that students need new information broken down into small steps with practice in between each steps. Third is to think aloud. When you read, write, solve math problems and other activities in front of your students, think aloud about the process that you're using. Modeling and demonstration help students to make their thought processes more like yours as the teacher. Since you're the proficient one in these things, that's exactly what you want. Fourth is guided practice. As the word suggests, this is the most successful teachers because this is when we present new material and then provide students with guided practice before letting them do their work on their own. Guided practice might be working through some problems together, having students summarize, rephrase, answer questions, or do board work. It's like the holding hand part of learning something new. Next is, of course, to state the objective. Maybe even write it on the board or post it on the board for the students to read. The goal of your lesson shouldn't be a secret. That's very given. They are better set up to direct their learning if they know where they're going. Next is to use graphic organizers. Graphic organizers help students summarize their learning and hang onto the important points. Research shows that information is stored in the brain in two forms. These are visual and linguistic. Using both methods help more students achieve. Let us review that there are multiple intelligence, and that would greatly help in our lesson. Next is concept sorting. Comparing, contrasting, and categorizing helps students break down concepts and truly understand them. Some examples are sorting words by phonics pattern, sorting plants or animals by type, sorting shapes by their characters, and so much more. Next is to check for understanding. Throughout your lessons, it's important to see if students are with you. This lets you know if you need to reteach or if it's time to move on. When possible, let every student respond. Students can write responses on a whiteboard or your blackboard, share an answer with a partner, or hold up a hand symbol with their answer. Next, of course, last but not the least, is to provide feedback. After all your activities done in class, it is best that you provide them feedback, whether they did good or if they did bad. If you just keep throwing the bean bag on your own, you never get any more likely to hit the square. However, if someone gives you feedback, a little more to the right, for example, or too hard of a throw, or whatever, you are much more likely to get a bean bag in the square. Let us all remember that students need feedback to improve. Aside from the 9 teaching strategies mentioned from the book of Marzano, here are the other examples also from Marzano. These are the 10 effective research-based instructional strategies. The first strategy is vocabulary. It is when you focus on specific words. According to Marzano, the measured change in percent is 0.95 to 32. Next is comparing, contrasting, classifying analogies and metaphors. This analyzes in terms of similarities, differences, and relationships. Next is summarizing and note-taking. It is filling in or translating to a synthesized brief form. Next is reinforcing effort and giving praise. It is the added effort is recognized. Next is homework and practice. This is where the learners practice their skills. Next is non-linguistic representation. It is using figures and imagery. Next is cooperative learning. It is when the teachers assign learners to work together. Next is setting objectives and providing feedback. Of course, as what the strategy is worded, it is the goal setting part, the direction, or the purpose. Next is generating and testing hypotheses. This is where we think with the deductive thinking, making predictions, and also checking. The last but not the least are the cues, questions, and advanced organizers. These are retrieving what the learners already know. Research-based strategies are implemented during instruction or the way material is delivered to students. The materials used and how the lesson is planned, designed, and constructed constitutes the curriculum. According to the Wing Institute, when selecting curriculum to best meet the needs of students and teachers, these criteria must be met. 1. The scope and sequence of the materials align with grade level standards and lead to increasing levels of difficulty. Second, levels of competency are defined. Third, the curriculum allows for high rates of student response and provide for corrective, supportive feedback and remediation. Fourth, formative assessments are specified and provided. Despite the allure of seasonal or topical activities and units, teaching concepts and providing a positive learning environment cannot be accomplished without base, sound, research-based practices. Determining what is sound and research-based, however, can be a complex process. Considering the easy access to online information that may not be credible. Teachers must bear responsibility to seek out information and practices that are truly research-based. Let us bear in mind that nowadays fake news is rampant. According to Keith E. Stanovic and Paula J. Stanovic from the University of Toronto, teachers need tools for evaluating the credibility of these many and varied sources of information. The ability to recognize research-based conclusions is especially important. Acquiring those tools means understanding scientific values and learning methods for making inferences from the research evidence that arises through your keyword, the scientific process. The other teaching strategy and method that I'm going to talk about today is the direct interactive instruction. You know the drill! Before we dig deeper on this other teaching strategy that I am about to present, let us first learn its definition. So what is direct interactive instruction? Direct instruction is the use of straightforward, explicit teaching techniques, usually to teach a specific skill. It is a teacher-directed method, meaning that the teacher stands in front of a classroom and presents the information. In other words, direct interactive instruction, or DII, is an efficient, effective, and research-based approach to closing the achievement gap. Furthermore, DII strategies guide teachers to disaggregate and sequence even the most difficult concepts at the highest level of cognition and achieve a high success rate with all students. DII is a model that uses teacher demonstration and explanation combined with student practice and feedback to help learners acquire well-defined knowledge and skills needed for later learning. According to study, it is particularly effective when working with low achievers and students with exceptionalities. Examples of DIR are teacher explaining or models a lesson, and then student practices with guidance. Next, students receive a feedback. They repeat the process. Then ultimately, students practice independently or work alone. Now that we already know what direct interactive instruction means, as teachers, how do you plan your lessons with the DII model in mind? First, identify the topics to be covered. This could be procedural skills or cognitive operation, meaning following prescribed steps. Next, specific set of identifiable operations and procedures. It can also be illustrated with a large or varied number of examples. Lastly, the identified topics should be developed through practice. What to do next is specify learning objectives. Of course, this includes automaticity, meaning the ability to perform a skill essentially without thinking about it. Also, transfer, It means applying knowledge acquired in one context to a new context. Finally, select examples and problems. The problems are unlimited. Also, consider providing examples with wide variety. There are 4 phases in implementing lessons using direct instruction model. These are instruction and review, presentation, guided practice, and independent practice. In phase 1, introduction and review, the teacher introduces the lesson and reviews prior to understanding. Its purpose is to attract students' attention, draw them to the lesson. Example, use student names in examples. Also, informally assess students' current understanding to make sure they are ready to understand the skill of the lesson. Example of this is conducting mini quizzes before starting the lesson proper. When you conduct the mini quizzes, it is not necessary that you record them. You can give them rewards in exchange to grades. The second phase is the presentation. The new skill is presented, explained, and illustrated with high-quality examples. The purpose of this is to promote involvement of the students. This also ensures that students understand the conceptual framework of the skill. It also makes the skill understandable for children or for our learners. The third phase is guided practice. Students practice the skill under the teacher's guidance and support. The teacher becomes the coach. Its purpose is to begin the process of developing the skill. Also, provide as much support to students as needed to be successful as the teacher gradually shifts the responsibility. It ensures student success. Students explain how they are solving the problems. The student explanation provides additional modeling for those who are still uncertain. The last phase is independent practice. This is the ultimate goal in DII model. Students practice the skill on their own. This can occur in 2 stages. Students practice with your watch as teachers or as the coach of the students, and 2, students work on their own through homework. Its purpose is to develop automaticity with a skill and promote transfer to new contexts. Successful students equals free teacher to provide intervention to other struggling students. It allows the teacher to differentiate instruction and work with small groups. You assess students using DII model. First is to look at students' ability to perform procedural skills. If wording on assessments is similar to that used in instruction, students may only demonstrate ability to memorize a set of procedures rather than demonstrate genuine understanding. The teachers must use careful judgment when selecting problems to use because we do not want students to just memorize formulas and plug in numbers. With that being said, allow me to present to you a short video clip about direct interactive instruction for more understanding.
For Teach Like This, and this is an oldie but goodie, direct instruction. The direct instruction model has a lot in common with release of responsibility. You've also heard it called explicit teaching and teaching for mastery. In a good direct instruction lesson, teachers should include 4 things. First, motivate the students and build their background knowledge. Second, explain the new skill that they're going to learn. Third, model a quality product for them. And finally, provide guided practice. This will look the same in any classroom, in any content area. Start by setting the stage for learning. Ask yourself, do the students have enough background knowledge to build upon that foundation? Do they know why they're reading a particular text? Do they even care about this content? Best place for any lesson to start is by explaining the purpose for the activity. Today we're going to work on blank. By the time we finish, you'll be better at blank. After explaining the what and the why of the lesson, you want to move on to the next step of the how. The best way to do this is provide a no-frills explanation about what students are going to do. A good explanation for your lesson does the following things. Divide the task into a few component parts. Tell the students how many steps will be involved. Provide the steps both orally and visually to accommodate for multiple kinds of learners and to reinforce. And finally, state the objectives as clearly as possible. As a side note, some teachers try to grab students' attention and provide motivation by telling them how hard a task is going to be in order so that they pay close attention and do well. However, usually this backfires. During an attention grabber like that, some students only hear the word hard and then shut down. Instead, accentuate the positives. Let me show you an easy way, or you won't believe how fast you get this, or we're going to go slowly together and I'm going to make sure nobody gets lost. In this way, all students will feel empowered to face the challenge of new learning. The next step of direct instruction is modeling. It's not enough to just explain to students what you want. You have to show them. Modeling allows learners to watch the process unfold before their eyes in the correct way. This means the teacher will engage in the task exactly as he or she expects the students to engage in the task. Also, while modeling, it's ideal if the teacher involves the class while modeling. Pass out markers so students can help underline things that you have on the board. Ask prompting questions of answers that you know that they know. Ask students for a synonym of a word that you write on the board. Ask the students to proofread your notes. Or ask students to read aloud the completed response. See if it makes sense. Do we need to make any changes? Without that active involvement, modeling is not going to achieve its intended purpose. The final step of direct instruction is guided practice. This would be the time to involve a graphic organizer that would guide students along their path to success. After students are successful with the graphic aid, the teacher should start working backwards. Eventually, the model should disappear, and at a certain point, the answer criteria. When students are able to answer the question without any of the support, that's when they're ready to be independent. Using the direct instruction method, the student will be successful if they put in the work. So before you explain and before you model, make this shared responsibility clear to the students. First, I'm going to tell you what to do, then I'm going to show you how to do it, then I'm going to help you do it, but at a certain point, you're going to do it. That's all for this video. If you want additional information, connect with me on Twitter, by email, or commenting down below. And subscribe for the latest teaching strategy in your newsfeed. I'm Alex.
In other words, to sum it all up, direct interactive instruction means I do, we do, and you do. First, I do. The learners will watch, listen, and learn while the teacher models and explains. Second, we do. We work as a team and practice the new skill, check for understanding, and work together. Third, you do. You do it together with a partner or a group while the teacher oversees. Lastly, the learner will assume full responsibility and work independently. That's the end of my report. Thank you for listening and good day.